You are listening to the Loida Lewis podcast, hosted by Loida Nicolas Lewis. She's a trailblazing businesswoman, leader, philanthropist, and the widow of Reginald F. Lewis, the visionary leader who was the first African American to build a billion-dollar company. With unparalleled determination, Loida Lewis has not only excelled as a successful attorney, but also shaped a billion-dollar empire. Following the untimely passing of her husband, Reginald F. Lewis, she took the helm of TLC Beatrice, carving her legacy as a successful business leader. Be inspired and learn from her as she shares her wisdom, the secrets to her success in both business, in love, and in life. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn. With your host, Miss Loida Lewis.
Welcome to the Loida Lewis podcast. Live, love, laugh, and learn with me. Many times as I went around the United States and Canada talking about my book, Why Should Guys Have All the Fun? An Asian American story of love, marriage, motherhood, running a billion-dollar empire. Yes, I did run a billion-dollar empire. And so when I talk about that, people are asking me, how was your wealth created? And so it's really not me. It was my beloved Reginald F. Lewis, my husband of 24 years. It is what I'm going to talk about, his playbook. How did he create wealth? Oh, by the way, if you have any questions as I'm talking, you can ask me. Ask loidalewis@gmail.com. We will try to answer it. How did Reginald Lewis live the life of Horatio Alger from not having many things to becoming a millionaire? In 1942, he was born in Baltimore with his mother, Caroline Fugit, and his father, Clinton Lewis. However, his mother and his father could not get along. They had different lifestyle and philosophy. So his mother left his father when he was 5 years old. And they lived with his mother's parents, Grandpa Sam Cooper and Grandma Savilla Cooper. His mother was out working and his babysitter was his grandma, Grandma Sue. So I think all of us are formed by our infancy, by how we grew up. And Mr. Lewis later on asked one of his aunt, why did my mother leave my father? And the aunt answered, because he was not ambitious enough. So from early on, he had already that idea, that goal. If ever I get married, that my wife will never leave me because I'm not ambitious enough. So, what is the first playbook? Be ambitious. Have a goal. Not maybe Mr. Lewis' goal, who I heard again from his aunt, he never told me. He wanted to be the richest black man in America. So, when you are growing up, your environment, your parents, uncles, grandparents, aunts, they will influence your life. Whatever that influence is, it should be something that you nurture in your heart of what you want to be when you grow up. Because it's so easy to just say, I don't know. Then if you don't have a goal, you're like a ship being thrown by the wind here and there and here and there because you don't have a goal. So that's number one playbook in Mr. Lewis' life. He wanted to be the richest black man in America. So it was economic. That's the first step. Have a goal. But having a goal is not enough. When you set a goal, you've got to work hard. That is the number 2 in his playbook. Whatever it is you're doing, you're a student, then study hard. It's not being a student doesn't mean, last thing to do is my homework. First, I'll watch TV. Then I'll play with my friends on the computer or on my cell phone. That's not your first goal. Your first goal is your study. That's what you are. If you are a student, if you are an employee, then do whatever it is you have to do to be a good employee. And I always say this, if you are unhappy in your job, don't quit, find another job. And when you find another job, then you quit. Because it doesn't make sense. You quit, who are you hurting yourself? But yourself. Okay. So the second one, work hard towards your goal. Whatever it is, work hard towards it. And Mr. Lewis, what did he do? While he was studying, he was always thinking, I will be a baseball player. Because at that time, baseball players are having a lot of money. When he was in middle school, he would practice batting the ball. His mother then remarried when he was 10 to Jean Fugit, a very, very nice, very hardworking, very patient man. And so he was the father that Mr. Lewis needed. He was there when you need him, and if you don't need him, it's okay. So Mr. Fugit tied a baseball with a thread so that it could hang, and he placed it up on a tree. And Mr. Lewis would practice hitting that ball. Why? Because he knew in order to be a good ball player in baseball, you've got to hit that ball. Number 2, work hard. Number 3 is determination. Whatever it is your goal, be determined to get there. But I always say, be able to be flexible, because sometimes the goal you're asking for is a little bit hard to get. Then whatever opportunity comes, you take a look at it and maybe that's where you go. Okay, but always, always be determined to get to where you want to be. There are many stories that you have heard how someone who didn't know anything about producing a Broadway show, he was writing all the time about the Broadway shows he saw. He was indicted to be a producer. Yes, I'm talking about Jet Tolentino. Now he is a director of movies. You never know when opportunity comes. Take it. That's in Mr. Lewis' playbook, determination. You have to work hard to get where you want. So you heard what I said about determination, but coupled with determination is resourcefulness. What does that mean? Mr. Lewis would always say, if you don't succeed, try and try again. A summer program was being offered by Harvard Law School in 1965 when he was a fourth-year college student at Virginia State University. So he applied, and he was not taken by the professor because the professor said, you're already in fourth year, only junior students are accepted. So what did he do? He did write another essay. He was able to give the grades to his professor. In other words, be resourceful in showing wherever it is that you want to go, that you are worthy to get there. For instance, there is a place that you want to go and it's too far, or maybe it was flooding. So maybe you get there to swim. So many ways you can do, or if you can afford it, helicopter. Just find the different ways to get there. That's determination and resourcefulness. The fourth in his playbook is thrift. Because when I met Mr. Lewis, he already had 5,000 saved in the stock market. You will say, what? How did he get that? Because while Mr. Lewis was in college, he decided when he lost his scholarship that he is going to find a job while he was a college student. So he divided his courses that he was studying Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, he was out working as a salesman for a photographer. He was so good, the photographer actually offered him a job, but he had higher goals. And as I said, he was able to be accepted at Harvard Law School after that summer program without his even applying. So there are so many instances in your life that you might say, oh no, I don't think so. Once you say that, you don't think so, then you already lost. Always in your mind, I can do it. I can do it. And then you try. But you will say, oh, did Mr. Lewis not fail? Yes, of course he failed. When he was a college student at law school, his best grade, he got an honors grade in corporate law. Why? Because he wrote a very good term paper that the beginning he told me was, in order to create wealth, you have to do merger and acquisition. What does it mean? As far as Mr. Lewis is concerned, don't start a company. It's too difficult. 90% of startups fail. Only 10% succeed in the first 5 years. Some of them belly up in the second year, or third, or fourth. So when he tried to buy the first company he wanted, Park Sausages, he failed. The second company he wanted to buy was radio stations, he failed. The third company he was going to buy was a furniture leisure company in California. Worked on it for 18 months. And at the end, when they were closing, the man who was white didn't want to work for a black man. And so he told the lie that Mr. Lewis wanted him to keep 2 books, one for IRS and one for their own keeping. That was a total lie. And Mr. Lewis just started with cursing him with, SHIT, MF. And so with the other guy, you knew that business failed. 3 failures. And so what did he do? Of course, he was almost having a nervous breakdown. But at the end, he started to look, where did I go wrong? As far as I was concerned, it was racism. The man was white, Mr. Lewis was black, and he didn't want to work for a black man. But Mr. Lewis looked into himself and said, 3 failures? I am doing something wrong. So just in case you are in that situation where you're trying to go after something and you fail, then take a look at yourself. Maybe you were not doing it right. Maybe you were just not equipped or you lacked the proper resources. So you learn from failure. And for Mr. Lewis, after he has read all the successful stories of those who were able to buy companies on a leveraged buyout, what does that mean? Using other people's money, using the bank's money. And you will say, how did he get the bank to loan him? Because he was going every year for 10 years with JP Morgan and showing the manager that he was able to reach his goal every year. He would say, look, my goal was last year and I overreached it. So for 10 years, what he told the banker what he would do happened. And so he had credibility. He had a track record. And when he wanted to borrow $1 million, the bank loaned it to him. Why? Because when you are a sponsor of a company, you found the company, you found the financing, and you closed it, it became yours, you are given what is called a sponsor fee. And so with the sponsor fee, he knew he could pay the bank, and he paid the bank what he borrowed within 30 days. So what am I saying? After failure, learn from it, and then you can do it and reach whatever it is you wanted to do. Thrift, money management. What you earn, you spend, you'll never get it. You have to put away at least 10% for investment. And if you really want to, another 10% to give away. It's called tithing. In the Christian and Jewish religion, 10% you give away. Either you give it to a church, you give it to relatives, you give it to a not-for-profit. 10% should be given away. So all in all, 20% is not yours. 10% is for investment, for your retirement, for your children, for whatever it is. 10% for giving away. So you really have to budget only 80% of whatever it is you have. Mr. Lewis, when we got married, was already donating to Harvard Law School, to his mother's church. And when he was able, he donated $3 million to Harvard Law School. He was the largest donor, single donor at that time to Harvard University. $3 million in 1990. He also had in his will that 10% of whatever his company is worth, whatever wealth he has, 10% should be part of the Reginald F. Lewis Foundation. And so, right now, 35 years later, the Reginald F. Lewis Foundation have given out $35 million to charity, especially to education. Know how to handle money, and 10% does not belong to you. It's to be given away. And the fifth in his playbook is faith in God. Although Mr. Lewis said he lost his faith, he still believed that you have to be ethical. You have to have a code of ethics. And in a way, he believed in God. Why? Because every time we would go to Mass, Sunday Mass, and we come home, he would ask me, so what did the priest say? So I have to be attentive. What happened during the gospel and the homily? Sometimes people lose their faith in college. They were raised in the belief in God, and then they lose their faith. And then when they're older, they come back. So whatever stage you are in, have faith in somebody outside of yourself. Because if you are just relying on yourself, it's too painful. I mean, it's too heroic. You're all alone. Because I am Christian and because I am Catholic, I thank God that I have faith in a loving God. So that is the last in his playbook and in my playbook, faith in God. So those are the 5 secrets of Reginald F. Lewis' playbook to create wealth. The first one is goal setting. You must have a goal. Wherever station of your life is, write it down for 2024 or whatever year you listen to this. What is your goal for 2020, for that year, the new year? Second is hard work. Hard work. Yes, of course, you can go to the movies, go to a nightclub, but when you have a work to be done, duty first before pleasure. Hard work. That's part of the game. Number 3 is perseverance. As Mr. Lewis says, keep going no matter what. And part of that perseverance is resourcefulness, because there will be always difficulty, hurdles, people, telling bad things about you. Don't listen to that. You can overcome it. Be resourceful. Get away from them. They are toxic. So, determination to reach your goal. The 4th is money management. Know how to save or know how to invest. 10% at least is not yours. Don't spend it. And if you really want to be serious, another 10% is also not yours. Is to give away either to your temple, to the church, to a mosque, to give away to friends, relatives, to give away, to help others. That's number 4. Money management. 20% is not yours. Have a budget for the 80. And the last one is faith in God. Because with God, honestly, everything is possible. And if you would like to read about his life, where all of these things I have said, here is his book. Why should white guys have all the fun? How Reginald Lewis created a billion-dollar business empire. It's available at Amazon.com or in your nearest bookstore. As I said before, if you want to ask me questions, it is askloidalewis@gmail.com, and we'll try to answer it. The first question, what have you learned from Mr. Lewis' life? Oh, I've learned a lot of things. The 5 things that I have told you, I have learned from him. And what is the most important? For me, it's faith in God. And it really is faith in God, faith in himself. Have faith in yourself. You have done all these things. You are at whatever point in your life. Have faith. You're good. And you can do everything if you put your mind to it. And that's what the most important thing I learned from Mr. Lewis. So how did I apply all the things that I've learned with Mr. Lewis? As I have said, all of those. Goal setting. What's the goal of TLC Beatrice International Holdings It? Create value. Create value. How do you create value? Increase income. Increase the revenue. Reduce expenses. So it seems very simple, but it was hard. It was hard to fire 50% of the staff of TLC Beatrice. But I saw to it that they all have good separation pay. And for the staff, I saw to it that they have a job after TLC Beatrice. So all of these things were, I learned, yes, from being married to Mr. Lewis for 24 years. And also my father. My father was an entrepreneur. And that you can read about in my book over here. Why Should Guys Have All the Fun? An Asian American story of love, marriage, motherhood, and running a billion-dollar empire. A follow-up question from the same friend. If you've never met Reginald Lewis, what would Loida Nicolas be? That's a question that can only come from a friend. Honestly, at the beginning, my goal was really not to grow rich or wealthy. I was going to be a nun. Why? Because I thought the life of the nun in St. Agnes when in high school, St. Teresa's College in college, was a life of service, giving their life to serve other people. Wasn't that so noble? So in my mind, I was never going to get married. Why? Because I was in the College of Law, University of the Philippines. And all of my classmates were really, really intelligent and bright and ambitious. But I was such a strong woman that I knew if I ended with any of them, I'll just handpick them. So why will I wear the pants in the family? And why would I marry somebody and still be wearing the pants in the family? I'll just be myself. So what would Loida Nicolas be if I never met Reginald Lewis? I probably would be a senator because that's how my father was. My father's ambitious to me. When I was 7 years old, he built Loida Theater in the province of Sorsogon so that as I was growing up and ready to go enter and finish college, I would enter politics and the whole town would already know who I am, Loida Nicolas. So probably I would be that single woman like Helena Benitez, who never married, head of Philippine Women's University, became Secretary of Social Welfare, and became senator. But God has other plans for me. And so it is very necessary for you to listen to your heart. Of course, use your head, but in the end, follow your heart. This is the Loida Lewis Podcast. Live, love, laugh, and learn with me. Thank you and God bless.
The Loida Lewis Podcast, hosted by Loida Lewis, is produced by the creators of Over a Glass or Two, Jesse and JV, executive produced by Loida Nicolas Lewis. Rate and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for a chance to be featured on a future episode. Have a question for Miss Loida? Just email us on askloidalewis@gmail.com. Your question might make its way to a future episode. Subscribe on all major platforms to never miss a beat. Thank you for listening to the Loida Lewis Podcast. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn together